Hello folks, in previous lecture we have created our second demo project by using the archetype, and this project type is web app. Now I'm going inside to my project, that is second demo project, and if I go inside over here you can see pom.xml and src is there. You can just execute tree on this directory and it lists out the what and all content is there. You can see pom.xml is there, then there is a src main web app, and it doesn't have any test cases, it just have the only source code, nothing but application logic. If we need test cases, maybe developers has to write the test cases. As a DevOps engineer, we don't write the test cases. Anyway, now I'm just trying to open and understand the what is the content inside the pom.xml. So if I open pom.xml, it has some of the information. So we'll try to understand some of the important parameters in the pom.xml once again quickly. So this is the pom.xml version, that is 4.0.0. So model version. Next, group ID, you can see what is the information we have provided, artifact ID and version ID. And one extra entry you can see here, packaging. In our previous pom.xml, there is no packaging. If we don't specify any packaging, by default it treat it as a jar file. But in this case, it comes with the packaging as a var, which means that it is a web application. So this packaging will tells that what kind of output it is going to generate it. Next thing, name of the project, this is the one, and if we scroll down properties, we are ignoring it, not much important for us. Let's scroll down a little bit. Here you can see dependencies. We have still have the JUnit entry over here. It comes as a Maven dependency. Then if you see build, under build you can see the plugins nothing but the goals indirectly, which goals it is going to execute, and whenever we execute that goals, what is the libraries are necessary to execute those goals, or what is the packages are required. So we are executing clean, right? So whenever we execute clean, this is the package or goal it is going to call internally. And similar way, resources, compiler, and whenever we do test cases, please remember that it is going to use the surefire plugin. Okay, this is the plugin is useful for the test cases, and it is generating the var. So this is the required maven var plugin, maven install plugin. Whenever we execute install, maven deploy. So all the important goals what we specify, those goals, the plugins are available in the backend. Those you can see under the build option. Okay, now let's try to build this application. So first time we are building this application, that's the reason whatever packages it requires, pull from the Maven central repository. Of course, it is going to take a bit time comparatively subsequent builds. Anyway, let me clean the screen, ls, and let's execute mvn clean install. Okay, so we'll see. So let's wait for a while until it gets complete. Okay, most of the files has been pulled. That's the reason many goals are completed quickly, and it took 12 seconds to complete because all the goals it's have almost everything in the .m2 local repository. And if I execute again the same command, you can see not even take 12 seconds this time. You can see this time it's completed within 3 seconds. Okay, anyway, if we try to understand the output, okay, it's done the cleaning the existing target file, and it's test compile test, and you can see there is no tests. Clearly it is saying that no tests to run because we haven't written any test cases, and it is building a var file and it is deploying the var file, sorry, not installing a var file on our .m2 directory. Okay, that's how it works. Now let me do a small change, that if I open my pom.xml and if I remove the dependencies, nothing but we are not running any test cases. So if I remove the JUnit plugin, we'll see what will happen. Okay, there is no dependencies for us. Okay, I have removed everything, and if I do cat pom.xml, you cannot able to see any dependencies. Let me try to run the same command again, that is maven clean install. We are trying to build it again. Okay, now also build is successful. Why? Because there is no test cases, so there is no point of making it as a dependency. But whereas if I go to my previous project, nothing but in my first project, if I go here, if I do tree, if I go to src, we have test cases. If I try to delete the same content over here, va pom.xml, this is on project 1. Okay, if we try to delete the dependencies, and we'll see what will happen over here. Okay, this is a jar, and here if you see there is no packaging option. That's the reason it is going to take the default packaging. Okay, so default packaging is jar packaging. This is the one it is taking. Even it is going to take all these backend plugins. Even though without this content still we can execute. Okay, but it is just to, in case if you wish to change the versions, we can do that one. So let's try to save it, and I'm going to execute the mvn clean install. Okay, this time of course it is going to fail because we have test cases, but there is no appropriate plugin to run these test cases. You can see here build is failed and failed to execute the goal, and if you see the goal, maven compiler plugin test complete, so it could not able to compile the code at all. That is the reason we need to add the proper dependencies to run our application. So to add it back, of course I need to find out the dependency plugins. So for that I'm going to search for JUnit repo. If I do, you can see JUnit, and the latest version is 4.13. Actually we were using 4.11, right? Okay, so let me take the latest version, and let me add it as in the dependencies. So I'm just adding it. So va pom.xml, and after properties, here I'm going to mention that is dependencies we want to do. Let me copy it. Okay, but it should be inside the dependencies. Okay, and again it should be closed. All right, so now what we are doing, we are using the latest version of JUnit plugin. Let me save it, and let's execute the same command. This time it should be successful if there is no any syntax errors in our pom.xml file. Of course, this time the test is successful and build also successful. Here you can see, as I said, JUnit is going to use the Surefire plugin in the backend, right? You can see here Surefire plugin. Even though we call it as a goal, in the backend it is going to call the compiler. Okay. Let's do one last thing, that is we are going to edit our pom.xml and we'll delete this one. Okay. All these what I can say build plugins. These all are optionals, I said. So let me delete it. Okay, I have deleted it, and if I do pom.xml, it contains only the information of our project as well as the properties and the dependencies. There is no default plugins. Now let's execute the command, that is clean install, nothing but delete the previous build and create the new one, and this time also it should be successful. Okay, I have deleted all these plugins, so it might be going to the remote repository to pull the latest one, because the pom.xml whatever information it contains could be the older versions. Alright, even though I have deleted our build snippet, still the build is successful, but this time it pulled a lot of repositories or libraries from the remote repository. Why? Because in our pom.xml, the plugins which we might use could be the older version. This time we didn't mention anything. That's the reason it went to the remote repository and pulled the latest versions. That is the reason it took little bit of time. And if I scroll down, if you see the total time, it took 41 seconds. If I execute the same command again this time, it should not download any packages, and it could be quite faster. It is only 3 seconds. Okay, and you can see here it is using the Surefire plugin of 2.12 and compiler plugin 3.1 and 2.6. Alright, that's all for this lecture, and see you in the next lecture.